clear that.
Okay, good morning. My name is Shlomo Vilozhny. I'm 80 years old in one day, and Moshe asked me to tell you a little bit about my family history. So my grandfather, whose Moshe was named after, his name was Moshe Vilozhny. He was born in 1876 in Ostrolenka, in Poland. Ostrolenka is in northeast Poland, about 150 kilometers from Warsaw. And he had a family also. He had שכחתי פתאום. My grandfather, basically, he wanted to go to Israel. Life for Jews in Poland at that period of time was very difficult. So he sold his business and he went to Israel, but not with the whole family. They couldn't afford to take the whole family in one shot. So it took basically to bring the whole family 10 years. When I mean the whole family, I mean it was Moshe Vilozhny, his wife, Fredel, and 6 children. And it took them, like I said, about 10 years to come to Israel. My father, his name was Mordechai Vilozhny. He was born about 1909 or 1910. We don't know exactly. As a matter of fact, my father doesn't know his date of birth. His parents were too busy to remember the dates, and all the documents were burned during World War I. So that's what we know. My grandfather came to Israel, then it was Palestine, in 1924 with his oldest daughter. Basically, he came penniless to Israel. His wife had to sell, when he was in Israel, she sold the apartments and sent him to Palestine, all the money, so he's not going to come back to Poland. That's how the economical situation was bad in Palestine. Moshe Vilozhny supported himself. He was very able carpenter. He rented a place in downtown Tel Aviv, and he used the apartment for both living and making furniture. Mostly didn't make furniture, he mostly worked manufacturing handles for agriculture purposes, like for handles for hammers, for axes, etc. All done by hand, with wood and plane. Little by little, he was able to bring the rest of the family. Like I said, it took about 10 years to bring the whole family. So the whole family came between 1920 and 1930. The first one to go was his oldest son, Yitzhak Vilozhny, that he came in, like I said, 1920, and he helped to bring his father, because at that time Israel was Palestine and the people in control were the British government, and they didn't want anybody to come to Israel. There was a quota maybe about 10 or 15,000 people. Many Jews wanted to come, but they could not because there was a quota. The exception was to bring professional people. So only people who had certificate that they're professional, they were allowed to come to Palestine, and they brought the families. That's basically how Moshe Vilozhny came to Palestine. He did very well. He bought real estate, he opened a factory, he was successful, and little by little, like I said, the family came. Also, Moshe Vilozhny was a person that made good decision in his life. He was a stubborn person, but the decisions were good. One of the good decisions was to bring two of his brothers to Palestine. One came with 7 kids, husband and wife and 7 kids, and another brother with 6 kids. And they came to Israel, he brought them to Palestine just few years before the Holocaust. So basically, he saved people from certain death. He didn't have enough time to bring the rest of the family, and his 4 other siblings with big families stayed behind, and they were killed in the Holocaust. My father, like I said, Mordechai Vilozhny, he came to Palestine in 1927. And after him, his mother with another sibling, and the last one came in 1930, Avraham Vilozhny. I was born in Palestine in 1940, and I have 2 siblings, Uri and Chedva. Uri was born in 1943, and Chedva was born in 1948. She was born 2 weeks after the state of Israel was established in May 1948. That's interesting. I said 2 weeks after she's an Israeli, but my birth certificate indicates that I am a Palestinian Jew. At that time, Palestinians, under the British control, on your birth certificate, your religion was notified. If you're a Jew, a Christian, or Muslim, that was the British system of identifying the population. What else? Yes, I was born in Palestine under British control. I still remember vividly the British soldiers. I remember even the Scottish soldiers that in day off, like the weekend, my parents used to take us to the beach and to have some ice cream in a coffee parlors over there, in ice cream parlors, in a beach. And we saw Scottish soldiers with skirts. For us, it was unbelievable because they wore the skirts not instead of uniform, but as off-duty. So they did too, and we didn't like the British that much. So we, even as kids, because we were 6, 7 years old, we used to running around and lifting the skirts to see what's under the skirt, because it was very, very unusual to see men with skirts. I don't think the Scottish soldiers appreciate that, but that was part of the environment that time. I remember in May 1948, Israel was born, big celebration, buses full of people, and many more people on the top of the buses drove through the streets of Tel Aviv, and among crowds dancing and celebrating, not knowing that 2 weeks later, the War of Independence started and shaped the life of many people. Many people were lost, including my uncle, my father's youngest brother, Elchanan. And Elchanan was a very interesting person that my cousin, Yoram Vilozhny, who writing a book about the family, devote several chapters to Elchanan, who was a very interesting person and well known in Israel, mostly to the old timers, because he volunteered to the British Brigade in World War II. World War II, when when the Palestinian Jews heard what's going in Europe, especially in Poland, with the Holocaust just starting, they couldn't sit still. They wanted to help defeat the Nazi regime. So the British government agreed that part of the British army fighting the Nazis, they established a Jewish brigade of Palestinian Jews, male and female, and they were sent to Europe to fight the Nazis. Elchanan became an officer, and basically it was about 3-4 years in the British Army, fighting in various places in Europe. But the most important things, he used his experience as a fighter and an officer to help the new Israeli army. And in 1948, when Israel was born, he joined the Israeli army, and a year later he was killed in the Negev desert in Israel while fighting the Egyptian army. He was beloved by his soldiers. What happened? Because there was such a shortage in soldiers at that time in Israel, they had a small army, so newcomers who start coming, people, most of them were Holocaust survivors, young people, joined the army, and they had a training of about 1 or 2 or 3 days how to hold a gun, and they were sent to the front. And they loved my uncle Elchanan, and he talked to them in Yiddish because they didn't know. Many of them didn't know Hebrew, and since his mother tongue was Yiddish, he was able to communicate with them and fight with them. What else? My father also, all my family was in a wood business, so my father Mordechai worked with his father Moshe, and Moshe retired very early because he was extremely successful. So when he was about 50, he gave the business to his children. And basically the business was managed by my father and his brother Avraham, and they had this business until the mid-80s. So that's basically a very short description of my family. We had 5 children. with children Noga, Boaz, Moshe, Ella, and Edna. And unfortunately, Ella died when she was 5 years old. And fortunately, all the kids now, we all live together in Santa Cruz, California. Boaz and Noga were born in Israel, and we left Israel to come to the United States in 1978. So I've been here in the United States for a long time. Yeah, maybe Moshe will, if he wants to clarify something, ask me. He can ask me, and I hope I can find the correct answers.
So why did you move to the United States, and well, how did you meet Mama? What were you studying over here?
Right. When after my army service for about 3.5 years, I went to the Technion, Israel Institute of Engineering, and after 2 years in the Technion, for various reasons, I decided to finish my education in the United States. So in 1964, when I was 24 years old, I came to the United States. I bought the tickets for the Greyhound bus, $99 for 99 days. You can go anywhere in US and Canada. And basically, I went on a bus tour to looking for a school. The bus stopped in Sacramento. I went from the bus to the Sacramento State College, which I think I corresponded with this school from Israel. They gave me some tests, and I was accepted to the engineering department, and I finished my engineering degree in 1967. 1967, I was accepted for a job in IBM. It's a very good position, IBM in San Jose, California. And I was with them for about 3 years. And then me and my wife, we decided basically to go back to Israel. And we came to Israel at the end of 1970. By that time, I also got a master's degree in, my first degree was in electronic engineering, and IBM, they suggested I should, if I want to study for master's, which I said yes, and I got another master's degree in San Jose State in the area of industrial and systems engineering. And also Miriam went to school over there in San Jose. We studied the same time. I studied for my second degree and she for the first degree in English literature. In September 1970, we took a trip for 3 months to Israel. Basically, it was mostly with trains throughout England, France, Italy, and then by boat to Israel. We came to Israel in December 1970. Miriam was pregnant at the time, but unfortunately the baby died upon birth. That was a major setback for both of us. After that, I got a job in Tadiran, major, at the time was major army communication manufacturer. And my parents gave us an empty lot, which they had in Ra'anana. And we built on that lot, we built a house, small house, maybe 1,000 square feet, with an option for second story. And basically Miriam, my wife, she designed the house. We lived in the house, and only about 1 year till a war broke out. That was the Yom Kippur War, which broke out in October 1973. And really this war influenced my life, because during the war I was not able to see Miriam, and I knew she was pregnant, and I knew I was, but you know, at that time there was no cell phones, and it's very hard to communicate when you are fighting. So toward the end of the war, in February 1974, I went AOL. I just left, I took my gun and left my unit, because my commanders would not allow me to go to check on my wife. So I decided I'm going to be in control. I took my gun and I walked while rockets hitting around me, because it was still war. And I hitchhiked for 2 days, and I came to Ra'anana and met my wife, who gave birth that night. So I was, just by pure luck, I was able to be with my wife when she gave birth. I continued to work with Tadiran until 1977, and then another opportunity came, and I joined another company, but it didn't work out. So 1978, I suggested maybe we should take a break in the United States and work here for about 3 years. My wife really objected to the idea. Looking back, I think she was right, because, you know, not everybody in Israel at that time had his own house. We had a beautiful little house, but I had a problem, and I wanted to have a break. So we left Israel in February 1978, and we came just with few belongings. We came to Portland, Oregon. Well, even though we told my parents we're going to be only for about 2 or 3 years, these years, 2 or 3 years came to about over 40 years. And this is one thing I don't feel so good, why I told my parents I'm going to be gone only for 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and I didn't keep up my word. but that's history. Now we have 4 children over here in Santa Cruz, and grandchildren, and we're pretty established over here.
So I have a few questions, and then I have to start it again because it only does half hours. So when you made it back for the birth, was that Noga? Was that your first job?
That was Noga.
And so that, and then when you said you left Israel because you had a problem, what was the problem?
Well, the problem was really, it was a part of it, a big part was the war and the aftermath. After the war, my unit used to go in Israel, soldiers to go to reserve duty. And I was going for about a month and a half, almost 2 months every year, leaving my wife and little kids, to the northern border to ambush the bad guys. That really put a big strain on me. And I asked the army to give me a break. Move me another unit. It says no. So again, I decided to put things into my hand, and I thought that maybe if I'll be few years away from that environment, it will help me.